So the Padres just traded for Blake Snell. That's kind of wild. But why? I mean, Snell's young. He's on a team-friendly contract with 3 more years of control. He's just 2 years removed from his Cy Young season. It's not like he was bad in 2019 and 2020 either. I mean, Snell's a great player. It's kind of baffling that the Rays would trade him. I mean, well, I just answered my own question, though. All the positives of Snell I just listed make his trade market all the more lucrative. The Rays feel like they can get more long-term value with a prospect from San Diego and the money they save from Snell. And that's just how the Rays do things. It is, always has been, and always will be the MO of the Rays front office to buy low and sell high, no matter the nostalgic value of a player to their fans. They definitely had no qualms trading away the face of their franchise, the savior, Evan Longoria, just to save some cash back in 2017. Team loyalty is not a concept to the Rays. You want to hear a crazy stat? Out of the entire starting lineup, bench, rotation, and bullpen of the 2017 Rays, just 3 years ago, there are only 3 players still on the team out of those 26 players. Kevin Kiermaier, backup infielder Daniel Robertson, who he was only in 13 games last season, was like barely on the team. He was left off all their playoff rosters. And reliever Jose Alvarado. That's it, unless you count Chaz Rowe, who appeared in just 9 games in 2017. It doesn't matter how good you were for the Rays. In fact, it's better, because the better you play, the better the return and trade will be. They shipped off an all-star in Tommy Pham last year, right before going to the World Series. The year before that, it was Malik Smith, right after the best year of his career. And you can't forget the Chris Archer trade, where they just sent the Pirates back to the Stone Age. This move is in the same vein as all those other moves. It's just the Rays being the Rays, and their cheap-ass owners not giving a shit about the fans, but that's kind of a given when you're talking about Tampa Bay. I don't need to go on and wax poetic about Blake Snell. Everybody knows how good he is, so surely the return to get him must have been insane, right? Well, sort of, and I'll have a video more in-depth about that tomorrow. But I kind of believe there's a deeper reason the Rays parted ways with Snell, even beyond the prospects they got back. It has nothing to do with Snell as a person or clubhouse chemistry or anything like that. I have no insider information or anything like that. And even if I did, do you think the Rays would give a shit about that stuff? They'd probably sign Charles Manson to a minor league deal if his slider had an elite spin rate. But that's beside the point. If you watched this year's playoffs, you would know that Tampa Bay leaned really heavily on their bullpen the entire time. Manager Kevin Cash was quick to pull starters at the sign of any weakness, as seen by his notorious yanking of Blake Snell in Game 6 of the World Series. Not only did they have great arms for the late innings, but their middle relievers and swingmen somehow also throw 98 with wipeout breaking stuff. I firmly believe that the Rays front office thinks, given their roster, and the fact that their owner doesn't give them any fucking money, that they don't need starting pitching. Like, any starting pitching. The Snell trade, combined with the fact they let Charlie Morton walk already, shows me that the Rays have internal numbers telling them they can make the playoffs while bullpenning or opening 100 games next season. I'm sure Tyler Glasnow will get some normal starts, and some random nobody like Michael Wacha, who they signed, will revive his career because the Rays kind of just do that sometimes. But outside of a couple of guys, everybody's going to be open for, and no pitcher will ever throw more than 3 innings. They say necessity is the mother of invention, and the Rays front office seem to be inventing a new way to construct a roster. Instead of paying Blake Snell $10 million to pitch 6 innings every 5th day, they can instead use that money to pay for 8 relievers making the league minimum, and they can pitch to 3 batters every single day. Instead of the standard roster construction where you carry 5 starters, a swingman, and 7 relievers, instead you can carry 2 starters, 3 swingmen, and 8 relievers. You saw low-budget teams innovating the way baseball is played with the Moneyball A's in the early 2000s. You saw it with the Rays developing the opener a few years ago, and I think this is just the next logical step for the Rays with the opener. And you know what? At the end of the day, even though on paper the Padres definitely won this trade, I have faith in the Rays front office. I mean, how could you bet against them? They end up winning like 75% of their trades, even if they look baffling on paper, and they consistently prove they're at the cutting edge of analytics in spite of, or maybe because of, their shoestring budget. Sure, they miss sometimes, like giving away Jake Cronenworth to the Padres, but ultimately you'd have to be an insane person not to have some faith that, given their constraints, the Rays front office is making the best they possibly can out of a bad situation. And honestly, the only real losers in this trade are the Rays fan base, who constantly have to put up with their shit ownership selling off all their most marketable players just to make a quick buck. The Rays making this trade doesn't signify that they're tanking. It doesn't mean they aren't going to be competitive next season. In fact, I bet my left nut they'll still make the playoffs. But it is emblematic of the league-wide shift away from traditional starting pitching that's been happening for the last few years, and I believe the Rays are about to take that philosophy to the next level, and honestly, I'm kind of excited to see it. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. After 6 months of not making a video, I just made 2 in 24 hours, so I guess that's kind of cool. Sub for more content. Expect a more in-depth video about the Snell trade tomorrow, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.